Does this add to a bullish stance you had going into the last month of the year, or how does this change your thinking?
It doesn't change thinking too much insofar as we've been pretty constructive on growth, the growth outlook as a consequence of all the virus news of late, and in turn what that means for risky assets and risk appetite. Our view is that you have tremendous policy support in the backdrop. You have this coming online, that is the vaccine, a little faster than what I think many were fearing. That just precludes a return to normality a little bit faster than what we were fearing. And so, given forecasts for growth are still pretty downbeat in the global economy, it brings forward the potential to get back to those pre-COVID levels of growth. So in our view, that adds to what is already a fairly bullish story for risky assets.
And you've been talking about what you describe as a meaningless slowdown in Q4, Tim. What does that mean when you talk about it being meaningless? Is that because it's driven by lockdowns, essentially, a story that we know well? It might be shallower than the slowdown we saw in the second quarter, but it will happen. It is happening. It has happened. How meaningless is it, though, in terms of an investment strategy?
I still think it's pretty meaningless, even though, the flash PMI numbers we get today out of Europe are going to show this slowdown. But everybody kind of gets that. And forecasts for growth, as I mentioned before, are already pretty modest in terms of the recovery we're expected to see and the trajectory of the recovery. It's fairly modest. And so I think a lot of bad news is already there. And wanting to downgrade your forecasts again because of the new numbers that are coming out, I suspect will be pretty short-lived. People will want to upgrade them once they start to see economic activity coming back online. In fact, you're already seeing these virus curves in the European economies who've gone through lockdown inflecting lower. And so it's not to say that we're completely out of the woods and have beaten this with a vaccine, but nevertheless, a lot of these bad news stories have already in some ways run their course. And I fear that people would get too bared up about them when you are about to see economic activity perhaps come back to normal a little faster than what we'd feared.